It's time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. I'm host Mike Adams, sitting in the cabin tonight with Dan DeFaw. Before we get started, we want to help you save some money.
That's right, folks. Don't forget to use our promo codes to save that money. And let's start off with buckbaits.com. That's right, the brick and mortar store of Buck Baits down at Sterling Heights, Michigan at 15 and Dodge Park. Go over there. If you're on the website, buckbaits.com, use the promo code UNJ20. That will get you 20% off your order.
For those of you who are looking for Easy Cut products, make sure you go to easycutproducts.com. And when you're there, use the UNJ promo code UNJ15 off to save 15% off your order.
And let's not forget Lincoln Roan over at packermax.com. It's never too early, never too late to think about the Packer Max. Go on over to packermax.com, use the promo code UNJ25. That'll get you $25 off your order over at Packermax Outdoors.
For those of you looking for some new firearms and firearm products, make sure you go over to the islandarmory.com. While you're there shopping, use the promo code UNJ10 to save 10% off your order there.
If you shot that bird of a lifetime and you want it mounted, don't forget Troublesome Creek Taxidermy. We've had them live on the show. We've talked to them. You want to get 10% off your order, go to Facebook, go to troublesome.creek.7, find their website. If you go to our website, UNJ, make sure to click on the button to download the form. You get 10% off over there using the code UNJ10.
Looking for that game call, whether it be a squirrel, whether it be goose, duck, deer, make sure you go to JPO Game Calls. Look for them at jpogamecalls.com, and while you're there shopping, use the UNJ10 promo code to save 10% off your order.
And Miller Deer Tracking, the man that seems to never sleep during deer season. Get 20% off your next deer tracking using the promo code UNJ20. Look for Miller Deer Tracking on Facebook or give him a call over at 810-240-4891.
Looking for the hottest new plastics to take on the water, whether it be hard water or soft water? Make sure you go over to southernindianabaitco.com. While there, use the UNJ promo code UNJ10 to save 10% off your order.
Deer Camp Coffee, folks. We drink it every night on the show. You want to try it? You can go to the brick and mortar store at 15 and Dodge Park at Deer Camp itself, or go to deercampcoffee.com. Also use our promo code UNJ10. You get 10% off your order. And don't forget, get a bag of the UNJ medium roast blend there as well.
All right, Danny, where's our live view camera look from tonight?
Good evening, everybody. Live from the UNJ Cabin. This week's live view, actually, we got a little bit of a 2-hour loop of the last 2 hours view out of the Bay City Yacht Club, where it's 77 degrees on this, I think it was 80-degree day here in Michigan.
It was 80 degrees.
Yeah, so here's a loop they have up at the Bay City Yacht Club. We are up there with Rock and Reel 2.0, and that's where we leave and head out to the bay.
I have kayaked around that point, a couple of good three times. So I'm familiar with that area as well as being with Rock and Reel 2.0. So, welcome to the cabin tonight, everybody. Host Mike Adams sitting in with Dan DeFaw tonight. It is a warm one. It was 81 degrees when I got out of work today and came home.
It was a warm one, and
rocking with the door open in the cabin tonight.
I know, right? And your son is cooking something that smells pretty amazing. So
it does smell pretty good.
Not only do we get to ask the interviewee our favorite questions, but we're going to have the smell as the evening goes on.
That's right. By the end of the night, I'll be hungry.
I know, right? So did you have a good week?
It was okay.
Good Easter?
Yeah, I had a good Easter. Got some work done on the weekend, and saw a lot of good hockey this weekend. Shout out to Saginaw Spirit and the Flint Firebirds. So, and I'll be back up in Saginaw for Game 3 and 4 against the Sarnia Sting. So,
okay.
So now I gotta cheer for Saginaw.
There you go. And big shout out to Mark Coleman. His morale season has started, and I think he has scored, according to what I see on Facebook.
Yeah, I saw a big box of
right?
some mushrooms sitting there with some other accoutrements there in his grasp. So
exactly. So, but this week's special guest, gives a totally different perspective on the Saginaw Bay. That, like you said, you've kayaked it, we fished it, standing on the shore. But he definitely gives a different perspective from a few thousand feet
in the air. That's right. So we want to go ahead and introduce tonight Mark Shaliga, the Michigan's own Airborne Angler. Marty Shaliga. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Real happy to be here.
You know, it's we were talking before the show started, and you know, I got familiar with what you do. At where I work at, we did a story there about you flying over the Great Lakes there, especially the Saginaw Bay area. But it's not just flying over the water and hanging out at 1,000 feet plus above the water deck there. It's you provide a very unique service to not just fishermen but everybody in the outdoors. So before we kind of get into everything, just explain exactly what you do as the Airborne Angler.
Yeah, so it's not very lucrative. Basically, I fly for a hobby. It's just something I've always loved to do. I have a full-time job doing something not as fun, and I got into ice fishing after that polar vortex year. I broke my leg, and all my friends were sending me pictures of their trucks out on the bay, giant fish. So I just decided I'm going to buy a shanty, a sled, all this stuff. And the next 2 years, we had horrible ice. Couldn't get out.
Mm-hmm.
I jinxed 2 seasons in a row, but all I can hear my buddies talking about is, man, I don't know what the ice is doing. You know, it's cloudy. We're not getting a pick. I'm like, well, I see that bait when I go flying. I just don't pay any attention to it. Do you want me to take some pictures? And they're like, yeah. So I flew up there. I'm like, whatever, you know, I'll just go fly around the shore and take some pictures of stuff. And I posted them on my, regular Facebook with my family and friends, and it just exploded. I started getting shared. I started getting thousands of friend requests from strangers, and which is fine, but they don't want to see, my Easter egg coloring pictures. So I was fishing with my son, and he was just getting into stuff, and he wants to be a YouTuber. So I'm like, all right, let's create like a Airborne Angler YouTube channel, and we'll put our stuff on there, and then your friends can see it, and kind of started like that, and then it just kind of took off. And then as I learned more about what guys were looking for, and as I started fishing more and looking for information, I kind of tweaked it to where I think we have a pretty good grasp now of what people are looking for.
That's incredible. As I think back to the first time I heard about you, I just thought, what a great, valuable piece of information for safety, just safety alone of keeping people off certain parts of the ice when the ice is bad. So, and Danny, you'd be glad to know that you're not the one that jinxed the ice fishing seasons here of the past anymore. I blamed him. He always says, "Hey, we got to go ice fishing," and we had bad ice, so you're off the hook.
All right, I like to hear that. That's a great. Thanks, Marty.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, did you ever expect? I mean, like you just mentioned that, it just exploded. Did you ever see it taking off like that?
No, I mean, there's thousands of pilots in Michigan. People that own their own planes, and it's just there's better things to look at than water and ice. If we go flying. So I just started doing it.
You just started doing it, and all of a sudden, you had something that other people didn't know. All your
didn't know they
friends,
needed.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, here you are. You're up in the air looking for a few thousand feet down, and all of a sudden you're giving a totally different perspective, whether it be looking at ice conditions or you're looking at water conditions, and it's totally cool.
But the safety factor alone, to me, that's so it's invaluable.
Yeah, the safety is what it was all about. I mean, there's only so much I can provide from an airplane 100 miles an hour, 1,000 feet above the ice, right? But it was just information I couldn't sit on. Now, it's free. Nobody has to follow me. You don't have to buy the picture. Everything's free. I have a great group of supporters and sponsors that let me do it. But, I just couldn't sit on this info and then watch all the trailers heading to Linwood Road or wherever and be like, guys, I just flew over. It's not good.
Right.
And, I just thought I had to share it, which comes with a burden because, like I said, this, I have a full-time job, a family, and I rent the airplane. I feel a lot of pressure now to go, especially this past year when the ice was changing daily. And luckily, my supervisor at work was accommodating because they don't just grant time off because you want to go fly on the bay. So
Right.
I was very fortunate that the guys at work would pick up the slack and let me go do a 2-hour run and get back to work. And the weather has to cooperate, the airplane maintenance, the schedule, and finances. So luckily the community's really stepped up and helped me do this.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. And and even the communities, knowing that you do this, probably could reach out to you at any time to say, hey, we need some help, and get that different perspective that they need as well. But the love of flying, like you said, you've got your real day job, and then now you've got to do this, but you just can't jump in a plane and go flying. So how long is it taking you to get to where you are today, kind of like that first flight to where you are today?
Well, I'm going to date myself. So I was actually stationed with the Marine Corps overseas in Japan, and there was an air base there, and they had a flying club, so that's where I decided to get into it. So I got my private pilot rating overseas in the late 90s. I completed my tour, got out in 2000, moved back to the area here. And then after 9/11, I couldn't fly for about 10 years. You couldn't get insurance. A lot of flight clubs closed. It was a real tough time for just hobby flying. And then obviously since then it's bounced back. So I dove into it hardcore again. I'm within 7 years of retiring, so I'd really like to do this as a follow-up. Like I mentioned you guys earlier, I'm very close to becoming a flight instructor, so long as I don't jinx my flight test. And then my next goal is to create more pilots. I mean, I'd love anybody that's interested. I would love to, but it's not a very hard goal to achieve. I think it takes about 40 hours of flying bare minimum to become a private pilot, but that's assuming you're ready for everything. And then just having access, it's a pretty affordable, and I think it's a great hobby.
Well, looking at affordability, I'm going to guess is the most expensive part of it paying for fuel? I mean, because I know what we pay for cars.
The most expensive part of it is taking a day off work, burning a vacation, or not getting paid.
Right.
So hopefully my wife's not watching this, because summertime she's like, hey, let's go camping. I don't have any time left. We didn't go on vacation yet. Well, we kind of did on Facebook.
Yeah. Did you see all those flying pictures?
I kid, but that is a thing. I'm sure, as everybody that has a job understands. You only have a finite amount of that. Obviously fuel prices have went up. My aircraft uses 100 octane low lead. It's about $6 a gallon on a good purchase. I burn about 8 gallons per hour as I'm flying. So, and then you have the aircraft rental insurance, and just the cost associated with flying. So recurrent training, things like that. So usually I fly a few times in the beginning of the season. We get good ice. I'm fishing, and then as it's starting to come apart. I fly again. This past winter was just atrocious. But that's when I'm needed. I'm not needed when it's good, right? I mean, what use can I provide, right? But I like to go there after windstorms, after warm-ups, after I hear something going on, somebody's reporting something. That's when I like to go up and take a peek before guys head out there at night or in the early morning. So, yeah, like I said, and then I feel pressure to go, so that's kind of a double-edged sword. Now, I don't want to complain. There's worse things I could be doing than flying an airplane around the bay.
Well, looking at that, you said this year, we all know how bad the ice conditions were, and like you said, too, they were changing daily, and you feel that obligation. Have you been up flying around Saginaw Bay, and you saw the conditions were bad, and you saw people heading out and maybe heading into danger?
I've already seen I've seen people where I wouldn't want them to be already when I'm out there.
Okay.
But here's the thing: if they're out there spotting and they're doing their homework and they have the safety buddy and they've got equipment, then I don't give no-go decisions, because it's a 1,100 square mile area. The ice isn't the same everywhere, right?
Sure.
The short guys we're fishing. They're like, "What are you talking about, Airborne Angler? We've been fishing for months." That's awesome, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about sleds and quads riding out to Buoy 1, right?
Yep.
And you don't have to do that. There's a lot of good fishing around the bay, and there was a lot of good fishing this year. But I'm speaking to the guys that want to go to deep water walleye fishing,
Right.
on machines, right? So I think the most useful thing for me to do is to map open water or hazards that I can see, and I can turn on my map and do a circle around it. It'll save the track, and I can point to something and say, listen, no matter what, this is open water. Like, I don't care how good you are, you're not going here.
Not unless you've got a boat or a life jacket.
Right.
Yeah, so like I said, I don't tell people to go or not go. If I see something really bad, I recommend they don't go.
You give them the information so they can make an informed decision. So you can't hear them say, "Well, I didn't know." Well, yeah, you kind of did, but you make the choice, right? And as you were talking, we were flipping through. So far, we're like the 19th of March here, just kind of looking at the pictures and seeing the water that, from your perspective, how you see things, whether you're looking at the state park, au grays, and the different variations that everything you see. It gives you a totally different perspective as if you were to drive up on a car, stand up on your running boards and look and go, yeah,
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I've been there, and I've been there, and I've been in some situations that I wouldn't want to be. And I'm just one piece of information, right? So you have to look at all the other factors. Is it going to be windy? Is there a warm up? Are we getting rain? And which shore am I on? What are guys reporting from the ice? So it's just one tidbit, but it's a great starting point. And if I can map the biggest hazards and just say, listen, I don't care what you do, but I can 100% tell you don't go here.
Right. Right.
And I have nothing to lose by telling you this, right? Or gain. I'm not going to be out there. I'm showing you open water or a large crack.
Exactly.
Then you got to go do your homework.
So, with that being said, you being the airborne angler, and as we come up, we're going to be coming up on our first break here, you're not the original airborne angler, and we kind of want to touch on that story here in the next segment. I guess he started it all.
Yeah, we'll check that. We'll start there when we come back. So we're going to take a quick step outside. We come back, we'll continue the conversation with Marty. So we'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has reinvented the way you buy bows.
From now on, you can make the most educated decision possible
by basing your bow choice specifically on your shooting needs and goals.
All you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of shooter am I? What do I want to achieve?
PSE will help find the right category for you.
So, what kind of shooter are you?
Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Second segment of the show. We're talking with Marty. Marty, say your last name again. I don't want to butcher it. So, Shaliga. Thank you. The Airborne Angler from Michigan, but he finally calls himself that. But you told us that you're not the original airborne angler.
Yeah, that's true. As I was happy to discover this year, one of the followers, the son of Kyle Karstens, Kyle was a World War II B-17 bomber pilot. And as you may recall, if they flew a certain amount of missions, they got to come back from that area of operations in Europe. So Kyle flew 51. He was a pilot, flew 51 missions, got to come home. When he came home, he opened an airfield right on the edge of Pinconning River, popular fishing spot. That last group of guys I was taking pictures of, that strand of ice, that's Pinconning. Okay. And I've been flying by that shoreline for years. I had no idea there was an airfield there. So his son sent me a little message and said, hey, great job, you're doing a great thing. My dad used to do this. So I was just fascinated by this story. There's pictures up, I'm sure you guys have up, or you can point your audience to. But he showed me where that field was. I superimposed the runway on a recent satellite pic. But long story short, he did much more than I do. So he would have a little tandem seat airplane, Piper Cub, and when an ice floe would break off with those fishermen, he would fly and land on that floe, pick one guy up in the back seat, fly back to his field, drop him off, and I think he rescued like 12 people that way, and multiple times. And the story went, I think, all around the nation, at least. The Wall Street Journal pulled up his story, so I think he definitely deserves the title of the original airborne angler.
Absolutely. I can't imagine flying in on an ice floe. It's already broken away. See, you have no idea how thick that ice is, and he's putting his plane down on it and picking people up and picking them off the ice.
Exactly, and to fly 51 missions, and if you're listening to the show or you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube, you can go over to the Airborne Anglers Facebook page, scroll down, and you can see these pictures. But he actually has a listing from the government of confirmed his missions from January 27th all the way to June 16th. It looks like it tells you he hit an oil refinery in Austria. You know, it
gives the mission and what he did.
So then what Marty did is he went into, as my computer's running brilliantly slow, right here, he took and imposed every one of those missions from his Air Force base in Italy and the reach that he had with his bomber.
That's incredible.
Isn't that?
The family didn't see that perspective. You know, they had the documents like, oh, here's what he did, but to see that graphically, and I was doing some research wondering what air base he was in or which squadron, but once I mapped them, all those wheel spokes pointed to that base. I was like, this had to be where he was. It's right in the center of all his missions. So it's really neat. His family appreciated that.
And you see what those guys did in those flying bombers and what they went through in the anti-aircraft fire and everything, and the ones that didn't make it back, and
flying with holes through the fuselage,
right?
And, you know,
injuries, and
it's amazing man. And unfortunately, he passed away just a couple years ago. I wish I would have had the chance to meet him, but I made great friends with his son. His son is actually named for his navigator. He came home and named his son Ken after his navigator that he did those missions with. So, really neat story. And there's so much more to that gentleman. I mean, he was recruited by Major Ball, I think, for the Cincinnati Reds.
Wow.
He got called up to train bomber pilots in the Korean War. That's when the field closed. But just amazing man, an amazing story, and I love sharing it. The more people I can educate on it and they can share it, the better.
You know, do you know if he was from Michigan originally?
Yeah, I think he's from Rhodes. I think he was born and raised in Rhodes or Estee, right in the area just west of Standish.
Okay.
And then when he went back, he settled here.
Wow, that's cool.
Is that not cool?
I mean, that's a local guy that, little stories like that from the war that we just don't know, you know? I mean, unless they get brought to light like this. That's incredible, so.
Right? You know, and then here we have the next airborne angler.
Yeah.
And
don't hold me in that same light, please.
He doesn't want to fly bombing missions, I don't think.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes there.
Yeah.
So speaking of kind of flying bombing missions, but you know we talked about ice fishing and helping them out, but now you're kind of picking up, kind of being a little bit more adventurous as you reach out and thinking, okay, what else can I spot from the air? But we're talking about maybe some flights of ducks or geese. How's that going?
I love it. Well, so usually, you know, I'm sure you've seen Sully, the Miracle on the Hudson, and not a big friend of waterfowl at 100 miles an hour at a quarter-inch plexiglass windshield from 1963. But as we got into waterfowl hunting, I'm sure guys that are listening that waterfowl hunt, you know that scouting starts in July, asking farmers permission, tracking birds, driving around sections of the county, looking to see where they're landing. Well, I like to fly early morning. The air's calm, and nice Saturday morning, and so I'd see geese coming up off the bay, and I was like, I'm like, I could slow this thing down like 50-ish, and maybe descend a little, and they're hauling, and I mean, I bet you I could fly up to them and they would foam up on my wing if I wanted to. But I was like, I'll just circle above them safely and just see where they go. I wonder if I can track these things. And sure as heck, I could put them to bed, and they'd be there the next morning. So I was like, man, this airplane could be a tool for other things. I love flying the shorelines, looking for ducks. I fly over in Neonquin, the state game area there. I like to hunt there with my son. But then I started flying up around the north end of Wigwam and towards Agre, and you can see pockets of ducks in between, the vegetation that you will never see from land. So I kind of started keeping track of that and seeing which fields are flooded, and So I thought that was pretty neat. But a lot of the ideas I get is from the audience, and I'll just get a random message. Hey, I have a cabin in Eau Gray. Do you mind snapping a pic? Yeah, there's, I don't charge for that. I just, if I happen to be flying by and I remember, I'll snap you a pic and send it to you. But I had a deer hunter tell me, hey, I hunt this area. It's public land, and it's so hard to see from ground level where the deer are coming from, and do you see anything? I'm like, yeah, I see runways all around you. Wow. And I can tell you, kind of which way they're running, which way they're oriented. So I snap a pic, turn the plane on the side and snap a pic straight down, and they're like, wow, I never knew they were coming from that direction. So I don't know, just kind of experimenting with it.
I think the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, just whatever your mind can imagine, as far as in the outdoors. But so I got to imagine if you're looking for runways for deer, you're doing that obviously before green up, so you can see where they're at.
Yeah, so the best is like first snow, right? Mm-hmm. And then just having that for next year. But the vegetation has to be off, and even without snow, I can see distinct dark lines through the weeds where it's heavy brush, to where you can see the preferred paths, and they branch out. They're not perfect, There's many, but you can definitely see a direction or a route.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
cool. And think about what kind of like if like when you had your elk tag, you know, he could fly up there and hey, where are they at?
Yeah, they're up in this quadrant up here and gathered up.
Can't miss them.
Fields. Yeah, it's hard to miss them anyway. I mean, they're so doggone big, but yeah.
Right, but that. And we were talking that he's flown up to Mackinac in the Upper Peninsula, and just getting that whole different perspective. That really, whether you're in a car or truck doing 80 miles an hour, you definitely can't get it.
Yeah, right. So you've logged a lot of flight time. You've been up there flying around. What is the craziest thing you've seen from the air?
Well, I was flying when those dams broke on Sanford and Wixom.
Oh yeah, yep.
I was flying the morning that they broke, so I know that Wixom area well. It's a beautiful area, and that whole Tittabawassee watershed and that river. And I literally got goosebumps when I flew over one of the areas. There's an island north of Wixom on that waterway, and there's a beautiful home on it, and it was just dirt around it. Mm-hmm. And like I distinctly remember that, and just I got goosebumps. And I don't even own a cottage there or a cabin, but and just seeing the flooding after that. It was just amazing to see it from the air. So that's something that stuck with me.
You mentioned that and talking about how much water was turned loose during that flood. This last weekend, I was running up M47 along Tittabawassee. I forget even where I was going now. Nancy and I were headed somewhere. But anyway, long story short, we've had a lot of rain. We've had 3-4 inches of rain here last week. And Tittabawassee was, it wasn't up to the bridges, but it was pretty substantial. And I thought to myself, because it came over that road there, I thought, man, how much more water had to come down that river to get up to those bridges and overcome the banks and cross over M47. It's just staggering to see that kind of stuff.
So nature.
And you mentioned Lake Sanford. We go up, up that way now, and you still see just what looks like a creek running through there. Because you see the vegetation growing up now. You see trees and saplings and things like that. But I got a buddy that lives on that lake, and you talk about the homes and what they've lost. It's incredible, for sure.
Right, exactly. So, another. I got a picture right here. There it is. Trying to land a plane when you're trying to go over a cruise ship.
So, in full disclosure, that was April 1st.
Right. So, you got to have some fun when you're doing this, and he's out there. And I think it's funny because you sit there and you look at, and this is the comedic value that he has when he does this. He's having fun doing it, and it's awesome. But could you imagine if that really was happening?
Well, funny story. It's not too far from the truth. So Bay City Airport, the river around the Bay City Airport, James Clements Airport, 3 sections of the river around the airport are actually seaplane runways.
Okay.
They're chartered on seaplanes. And there's a ramp there on the south end. That's for seaplanes to land and drive up onto the airport land. Mm-hmm. So there's a warning in the chart supplement for that airport that says if you're approaching at night on this runway that looks very similar to that picture, be on the lookout for freight ships.
Right.
If you get low, there's a potential for hitting a ship at night that you wouldn't know. You just see some lights moving. So that's kind of why I threw that in there, because it's really believable. But I was in Florida enjoying beverages, and it was April 1st, so I thought I'd post
Well,
it.
you know, we do have a couple I think they do actually have some cruise ships on the Great Lakes.
Yes.
So you might be April Fools today, but we might be getting another picture updated saying, "Look out!"
Yeah.
But that was a good one. We gotta throw that in there and go see what's happening.
I'll tell you what, let's take our
good.
second break. We're at a good stopping point right now, so we're going to step outside, take our next break. We come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Welcome back. Third segment of the show. We've got some questions coming in, and I want to ask this one that Mark asked.
Well, before you go there, let's just remind everybody, if you're watching us live on Facebook or you're watching us on YouTube, or unfortunately if you're listening to us on the podcast, you got to go check out the live Facebook and YouTube, because there's things in the break that you won't hear, so you got to check it out on the live stream. So go check that out. And if you want to visit more with the Airborne Angler, you can go over to the airborneangler.com and check out his website over there. He's got some links over there, some past interview he's done, or follow him on Facebook, the Airborne Angler Facebook page. Now go ahead and ask.
All right. So Mark Coleman wants to know, being that you're out flying, and we see this quite often in the area, that some planes will have a banner. Have you ever flown with a banner behind your plane with a message that might say, "Will you marry me, Danny?" ?
So I have not. So banner towing is a banner. I've done some promposals for teenagers. I have done too.
Okay.
And those relationships are no longer. So maybe you want to rethink that. But they did say yes for the prom. It wasn't a long-term commitment, but it worked for the prom. That being said, no, the banner tow operation's a commercial operation, and I don't do that. I don't know how much that would cost, but there's an outfit in Ohio, Toledo, I believe, Air America or something like that. They're the ones that do the Burt Watson and whoever else is out there.
Okay. You know, I often see them, especially around football season in the Saginaw Township area, right around Heritage. They'll fly around the local area there. So.
Oh, for sure. Another question. Can you fly into Canadian airspace?
Yes. Fun fact, I'm a Canadian citizen as well as a U.S. citizen. So you don't need that to fly. But yes, you can fly. There's airports called airports of entry that have customs. So once you fill out a manifest, you have to file a flight plan so they know you're on a radar crossing countries, and they'll track you. And when you land, just like crossing in a boat, you'll have to stay with your vehicle, so airplane or boat, and then you call a number, and then customs will either say, "Hey, sit tight, we're coming," or they'll say, "All right, go ahead," and you'll never know which one it's going to be.
Okay. So you better not be doing anything nefarious.
Yeah, those Canadians.
Yeah. They stop you at the border. They'll stop you at customs.
Last thing I want to see is a Mountie on a horse coming up to my airplane.
No kidding, right?
Well, matter of fact, just on the news this morning, they up in Marine City busted two gentlemen. They came across on a boat, hit the ground running. They both had backpacks, and they got them. They were trying to bring ecstasy into the country.
Okay, they weren't from the country, I take it?
You know, they actually, I think one was Canadian, one was American.
Okay.
And it was just, but yeah, you don't leave your mobile, your boat, or your plane. You wait until they give you approval.
That's right. We've got another question coming in from Adam Wynn. He says, talk about Camp Fishtails and how it came about.
Camp Fishtails, sure. So Camp Fishtails is a local camp for people with all kinds of disabilities, and it's a zero barrier camp. So you could be quadriplegic and climb a rock wall. They have got the gear for that. Specialized camp to give people a chance, kids and adults, to come out there and enjoy the summer. So like I said, Airborne Angler grew. I think I had like 12,000 followers at that time, and we were just, ice season was winding down, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with this audience? And should I do any? Is there anything I could do with them? And not self-servingly. So I thought, we need to get the kids involved in volunteering, and we should pick a charity or something. So I went there like, oh my God, Camp Fishtails is down the road. I'm the Airborne Angler. They're Fishtails. Let's volunteer to go bait some hooks. They fish there. So we went there, met the director, Shannon. She's like, oh yeah, I love the idea. Let's partner. I was like, okay. So we just chose one night a week to go take our kids down there and go on the pier and bait hooks and bobbers. And Frank's Great Outdoors is donating, gear for us and bait and everything we need. And it just turned into this thing. So I thought, well, let's have a golf outing. Any excuse for me to party, I'm there, right? So golf outing, fishing tournament, prom, anything. I mean, I'm doing it for fundraising, not for partying. But if you get to party, that's a double win. So I got involved with them. I love it. I'm on the board of directors now. I think it's a great charity. My kids don't go there. I other than just volunteering and helping them, that's all I'm in it for.
That's cool.
And they have a Facebook page as well, Camp Fishtail. So if anybody's interested, get on over there. Go check out Camp Fishtail.
There you go, right there.
Right?
That is cool. And, it's just another way to give back and help people that might have a little bit of a barrier trying to get into the outdoors.
Right, exactly. And, getting them outdoors is just, we've talked about this and the psyche and everything about the outdoors and, getting out there and how it helps the soul. Does that do that with flying?
Yeah, I mean, flying, I would love to be ice fishing on good ice with my friends on a good bite, not worrying about cracks, no wind, like that. I can relax there. I love flying. I love walleye fishing. But yeah, it can be, like I said, I don't complain about doing it. I hope nobody gets the idea that I'm complaining about being an airborne angler. The flying itself, I love. It's great. I think there's, I talk to other pilots and like, you're not gonna go fly the bay again, are you? Like, have you flown over to the Muskegon and or the pictured rocks? There's other things to see than ice shoreline, but that's my thing. I don't mind it, and I'm happy to do it.
It's like we've said so many times already. The service that you provide is just incredible. You don't charge for it, and before the show started, you were talking about the last 3 years that ice fishing wise, there's not been any fatalities on Saginaw Bay. Is that right? Yeah. So first and foremost, I'm in no way, shape, or form taking credit for that. It could just be coincidence. It could just be people getting smarter, or just the conditions, right? But looking back through the records, we've had a fatality on ice-related fatality on the bay, or the most recent one was Tawas Bay. A gentleman unfortunately passed away ice fishing there. And I didn't know people fished Tawas Bay. I used to just cut across Caseville over to Au Gres and turn south and head back down the shoreline. So I felt really bad that he went into that crack in Tawas Bay, because I really didn't know that, being that part of the lake really freezing. I made a decision that year to spend the extra time to head to Tawas, take a picture, track that ice, then head south. Unfortunately, but yeah, the last 3 years, whether as my audience has grown, I hope the information is getting out there. We've had a lot of close calls, so we still have a lot of work to do. And obviously, we had the young man that had the boating accident on the river. So it was bittersweet. There was no celebrating, obviously, this, but I'm hoping it makes a difference, even if it saves one person, then it wasn't a waste of time. But I hope we can keep it going. I don't like to talk about it before season or during. Sure. But I think we're in the clear now. Guys are starting to get sunburned, so no danger of ice right now, except in our drinks.
Yeah, I just like maybe it's working. Maybe if we keep sharing this, there's nothing to buy. If you just keep sharing the information, people can look at it and then they cannot, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So hope we can keep that going.
Have you ever heard feedback from people just out in the community of fishermen that said, I was going to go out, but we were going to fish that area, so until we saw the photo that you posted, and we decided against it. Have you ever heard anything like that?
Yeah, maybe not so much publicly. Some guys will say, "Hey, man, you just saved me a 3-hour drive. Thanks." But a lot of that information you can get right from bait stores, whatever. But it's nice to get a message from a stranger saying, "Listen, I've been watching you for a while, and your information." Because I think people like it because they're my friends, whatever. Like, does it really help? Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes when it's dynamic, I think it does. But it's nice to get a message saying, "Hey, man, love what you do. Is there anything I can do?" And I appreciate the guys that on Patreon that support me. I trade in fishing reports, and I get to fly, and I got great local businesses in this Saginaw Bay corridor that sponsor me, and they want this ice safety campaign to keep going, and they don't ask anything in return. They're just like, "Hey, you're keeping these people safe. I don't see anybody else filling that need in the community. Just anything we can do to help you." So that's really what keeps me going.
Well, you mentioned people who sponsor you or companies or what have you, or businesses. Give them a shout out now. Some of the bigger ones that help you and keep you in.
Yeah, I try to. Anytime I get a chance to thank them, I do. I think you can see in my cover photo, but I got Dean Arbor Chevrolet, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever sold them a car, but they're like, "Hey, keep doing what you're doing. We love it. I think our customers love it." Frank's Great Outdoors, obviously, this is the 3rd year they've stuck with me. The Party Dock, bait store down by the river, great family there. Fishermen, and these people all have ties to fishing. Yiter Insurance, huge. Carl's actually a pilot himself.
Okay.
And I like to pick, not that I say pick, like I love the sponsors that really relate to my audience, right? Every one of the guys watching and the girls watching can relate to this. Don Plowman of Plowman Carts does awesome work with lithium batteries on boats.
Yep.
Franklin Credit Union has helped me with everything, whether it's camp fishtails, anything. Josh of the Maple Grill, who just caught a 10 plus walleye on a boat that he redid and learned to fish the bay. So I was super stoked for him.
That's awesome.
Bayview Foods, Mr. Chips, Linwood Beach Marina. They're like, "Hey, we have a drone. We take pictures of the marina, but keep doing what you're doing because our drone can't get to Caseville." Montrose Trailer stepped up. These guys make aluminum custom trailers. Awesome work. Elite Crete Systems. He came out fishing on a charter and learned about the Airborne. Like, man, that is really, that's really cool. So yeah, I don't think I missed anyone. And then the guys on Patreon. I've got like a group of 200 fishermen that we share fishing reports in a private group, right? So they subscribe to me, and anytime I go fishing, I'm sharing GPS, lures, underwater camera, anything I can help them, because a lot of us don't get to fish daily, right? And it's tough to ask for info. As big as the bay is, and I think there's enough fish for all of us, it's hard to get good, accurate information. So we decided to start this club. I said, if you guys help me with the expenses of the ice safety campaign, we'll have our own community, our own team, and we share reports. And it's just awesome to see guys sharing reports and everybody doing well. So I'm really excited about that. Great group of guys.
That to me speaks volumes. Having people that are willing to share information with others so everybody can be successful. If Danny and I had a secret spot, out there in the bay, which, the thing's huge, right? Come on now. And you're not going to catch all the fish, and that's how we grow the sport. That's how we keep kids interested in the outdoors and off of, computers and cell phones all the time and playing video games. Get them out in the outdoors. And if just that little bit of what you're doing, which isn't a little bit, it's a lot, getting that information out. I think that's awesome. It's so important that we share the outdoors with other people. Last week, Danny, we interviewed the happy camper, Kevin Callan from Ontario, and and he mentioned that he wrote guidebooks for the major canoe routes in Ontario, and people were like, "Don't be giving away our wilderness areas. Don't be telling people where to go." Well, nobody gets to enjoy them if they don't get there, So
it's a fine line. If you're on a small lake and you sow 3 Christmas trees and that's your spot, I don't need to show that to everyone.
Sure.
I get it. you did some work, you found it, that's your reward, right?
Yep, exactly.
It's Saginaw Bay. We're trolling. You're constantly moving.
Yep.
There's fish everywhere. They don't just stack in one spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and I can't fish it every day. So if I'm going to fish and I did well, and I can't fish for a week and a half, what do I have to lose by letting my friends know, hey, come out here?
Yeah.
And we get to learn so much because it's like 10 trips in one day.
Mm-hmm.
I get to learn what they did and didn't work. I report when I get skunked in a spot, so don't go here. Or if you do, maybe you'll do better. But I just love it. It's a great community.
So speaking of that, you went out this year, but what's your biggest walleye to date?
So, funny story. I caught a walleye a couple springs ago. Real cold water. Out of Linwood, 20 feet of water, drifting with like a clear husky jerk. My buddy and I, super new to walleye fishing, we catch this fish. I have a nice rusty analog scale with like a needle that's bent. And we're catching fish, and we did well that day and got this one fish that's just standing out. Just like a girthy fish with shoulders, like there's a hump on its back. I'm like, what? That's got to be like 5 pounds, right? So we weigh this thing, and it's like 5.6. I'm like, man, that fish looks really big. I post some pictures on Facebook. My kid's holding it, and it's bigger than him. And I'm just like, whatever. It was a big fish. I can't wait. I can't imagine to see what a 10-pounder looks like. So one of my buddies, Charlie Horan, that's a much more established fisherman than me, he's like, hey, man, how much does that fish weigh? I'm like, I don't know, like almost 6 pounds. It's like 29.9 inches now. 4 hours later, shriveled up. He's like, you should weigh that on something else. Okay, 9.98 on the scale.
Wow.
Like 6 hours later.
Wow. So it was a 10-pounder.
It was a 10-pounder.
No, it's not. I can't claim it. That's not how it works.
No, you can't. But officially,
it didn't go in the wall. It didn't go in the wall because it was shame. That's my punishment for being an idiot. I still have pictures of that, and it's it's scarred up, and it's just dumb,
Awesome, but it's a great story, and
great memory.
You caught that in the spring, right?
Yeah, it was like April 3rd or something. No, March 23rd, I think, of 19.
Wow.
Still remember the day, seared into my memory.
I'm pretty sure everybody reminds you of that day seared in your memory.
Oh, my buddy does, and he's like, you haven't got a 30-incher. It was 29.9 6 hours later.
Right, right, exactly. So,
He'll remind me. He'll chime in. I'm sure he's watching now, so I have to be very specific. Legally say it's not a 30 or 10-pounder.
Our fishing guy here on our team here, Adam Wynn, he's laughing, so he can relate.
Exactly. So
I'm still searching.
There you go. Hey, get out there. You never know. You never know what that next bite might be.
That's right.
But we are coming up on our last break, so why don't we take it? Because then we got our questions asked.
All right. So we're going to step outside, take our last break, and we'll be right back after this.
Acceleration is part of PSE's DNA. PSE pioneered the speed movement. Now they've developed the vapor category to help you find the most powerful bows on the market to fit you.
High speed equates to intense power and building the momentum you need to be successful. Are you a vapor shooter? Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Last segment of the show. Man, the show's flying by tonight.
It's been flying by.
Get it?
Literally.
Literally. Tried to throw a little bit in there.
Right.
And I've been looking all night. We've been sitting here talking before the show started and all through the show. I'm trying to figure out what you're flying over there. You're sitting there in the plane, and I'm getting a good look, but the ground's not moving, so I'm trying to figure that all out.
That's Cancun.
That's a great backdrop, man. I love it. It's talking about a scene setter there. That is cool. So
right, exactly. But when's the next time you think you'll be heading out to do some flying?
I want to do some fishing. I have been doing a lot of flight training to become a flight instructor. I was supposed to finish today. It was too windy. I'll be flying this weekend around the bay. I have that scheduled, so if I see something of interesting, I'll post it. But my new hobby is finding where boats are all around the bay. and I've started flying around the thumb towards Harbor Beach, so all around Port Austin, and I was surprised to see sneaky little boats there. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to be posting that. That has no use to the general public. Maybe they're just having a beverage out there, right? I don't know how they're doing, but I'm starting to see patterns seasonally of where packs of boats are. I don't care where the packs of boats are, but sometimes I see one sneaky little guy all by himself, and that gets me interested.
Right, exactly. Oh, a question we got in from Tammy. She asked, did you get a replacement scale?
Yes, I got a digital scale, a fresh 9-volt battery, and ever since I have not gotten a big fish. So
that's like buying a new snowblower, right?
It's not going to snow, yeah.
Amy's just twisting the knife in.
Right? Yeah, she's good for that. She's a big walleye fisherman. She mainly, when she's out, she's up on the river up over by Algonac.
Okay.
And, but like we talked about before the show, Adam and Scott were out, and he searched high and low last weekend, and they couldn't find him. But like you said, you're up at that distance, and all of a sudden you see that one sneaky little boat kind of going off somewhere, and you're like, hey,
what's he doing? Yeah, where are you going?
Right?
So, that's good stuff.
That's awesome.
Well, if we're out there on the big water and I see you flying over, we'll shoot you a wave out. So, you tip a wing towards us. Let us know it's you.
Will do.
So, all right. So, we've got just a few minutes left here, Dan. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready to fire away at our typical 4?
It's time for our newbie interviewee questions, and they go something like this. All right, so obviously you're traveling, flying. Maybe you're driving, or maybe you're flying in your plane. But what music are you listening to on the radio?
Oh, I like I like Metallica. Alice in Chains. The old CDs. I just like the old rock and metal stuff. I like some of the newer music. I'll listen to country. It's it's kind of soothing, but I like that '90s generation rock that I grew up with.
There you go.
That's a good one.
That kind of puts him in as a date range of how old he is. He's a little younger than us because we're 70s and 80s rock and rollers.
So all right, you're rocking out, you're jamming. You reach over, what's your go-to snack that you're going to want to have with you?
Like jerky, any sort of smoked meat, salty. I love spicy stuff. Yeah, meats.
Spicy meats.
Protein's good, man.
No complaining there, man. It's awesome.
That's why we got canines, man. That's intermediate, in too.
Right, exactly. All right, so you have invited Dan and I to come over and...
Mike and I. Unless you're not taking me and you got somebody else you're taking.
Exactly. Maybe. It depends on what his answer is to the question. So we're coming over and you're going to cook us a meal. What would be your go-to outdoor type venison, fish, whatever type of meal that you would say, you guys got to try this?
We've probably had it, but... walleye, deep fried, and Andy's Cajun breading.
Okay.
Not batter, just dusted, deep fried, 3 minutes, 3.5, and down the hatch.
Well, I gotta ask, cheeks? You keep the cheeks on them?
On Lake Erie.
Okay.
I do. I found a great recipe from a local fisherman for walleye chowder, and cheeks are big staple of that. So yes, if they're worth it, I'll get them. If I've been out on the water drinking a lot of liquids and the sun's been on me and my eyes are half open, I just want to get the fillets in the freezer and
be done with it, right?
On the spot and lay down.
There you go.
Well, that question's for Tammy,
right? Yeah,
I knew you'd come in if we didn't ask it.
So, but what's nice about that is I don't think we've ever had it with Cajun.
No.
Yeah, I know everybody's had deep fried walleye, and this specifically the Cajun. It's just this peppery burn, just in the throat. It's not like hot wings and you're crying. It's just perfect.
That's good. I like a little Cajun kick to something.
There you go. That'll work. Now, do you have one for wild game that you would give us?
I actually love goose breast jerky. I love goose. I brine it. I do a saltwater brine, like 24 hours, I think. I'm just going off the top of my head, and then slice it real thin. And even if I don't have a smoker, I can crack the oven door with a wooden spoon and just put it on the racks there on toothpicks. And even my kids will eat it. I know people are worried about the gaminess, and I think doing it properly really takes that. And I think that's my favorite. I think that's the reason I water power.
That's how I do my jerky. Is I do the oven with the toothpicks, and that, I mean, you can't go wrong with it. And because you can't get a perfect slice, what I do is I usually set it for about 8 hours, and then I call it, right? And then you'll have some crispy pieces, chewy pieces, everything in between. So it's like you can't go wrong.
Well, the jerky, you're talking about goose breast jerky. I've had it, and it is fabulous. And then a guy offered me a sausage stick, and I said, "What is it?" And he says, "Just try it. I'm not going to tell you. Just try it." And I popped that in and was chewing on it, and I could not tell what it was, but it was so good. And I said, "All right, spill the beans." And it was goose breast jerky, or not jerky, sausage. And that just blew me away that they take that and they make a smoky stick out of it.
Prepared right, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it was out of this world.
Right. So, Tammy, was that Cajun that you prepared for us?
There's Andy's Red and Andy's Cajun. They're similar.
Okay. Well, we'll find out. All right, so we've had a great meal. We're sitting back around the campfire having a couple sody pops. A go-to story that's kind of hit you that, yeah, I got to tell Mike and Dan this story because it resonates deep inside you that we're going to hear it.
And we're still broadcasting to the public, right? So
yes.
Yeah.
So we got that filter. Deep story. Wow. My wife's not a big fan of my fire time stories.
I don't see her.
You just have to go over and turn off the speaker on her phone if she's watching.
Deep stories.
All right, so let me try to help you out here. The first time you went up solo flying.
Okay.
Were you nervous? Were you scared? What was it like getting that first time in the plane all by yourself?
Usually what the instructor does is you'll fly around with them like 3 or 4 times, and to make sure that you don't freak out, they just have you stop and they hop out on the runway. They'll shut the door and say go. So you have no time to second guess. And I remember, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go. And he's like, go. And he had a handheld radio, and I took off, and I think I was screaming, like kind of like joy but terrifying, like a little girl. But there was no GoPros back there, so I was like this 12-year-old Dutch girl just screaming, and it ended up fine. But yeah. That's how it all started.
See, so there you go, right? So that's how they do it, huh? Right on the runway, they just jump out and say,
That's how they do it. They don't want to. We don't talk about it. You just go do it. No second thinking. You just did it 3 times. I didn't touch the controls, so you can do it without me.
So did you know you were going to do solo that day, or was it just you're getting to be about that time?
Yeah, so like he told me, he's like, listen, on average, if you got your stuff together, it'll be about 10 hours of dual instruction, and then I'll sign you off if you prove to me. So we were doing this pattern work, take off land, take off land, take off land, and I noticed he was like starting to just look out the window. He's not saying much. He's not touching the controls. So and I felt confident. And then next thing you know, he's like, hey, pull over here. So I pull over, and he takes his headset off, jumps out, and we're done. And he's like, go do three laps.
Wow. Well, Scott Keene says she's not a fan of your perch fishing.
Anyone that's selling their boat at the start of the season probably shouldn't be chiming in, Scott.
Somebody got called out.
Right?
By the way, Scott has a beautiful Ranger Riata for sale if you're looking for a boat.
Right? That's the first Scott. The second Scott says, do the perch from Dustin Land taste better?
Dustin Land is where you don't want to go.
Okay.
Wow, you got some nice friends here. I can only.
I have no friends on Facebook.
There's smack talk going back and forth right now. They're going at it.
I was wondering how long those piranhas would take to smell blood on Facebook.
Right? You know, and that's the thing. And, you know.
All right, so I guess we're out of time.
Right.
Right? We're good. Thank you for not showing up in the first part.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, so that's awesome. You know, I wondered how my dad had his pilot's license for a while, and then, you know, but I wonder how they got to that point. Well, I guess they put you on the spot and you do it, or
there you go.
In this case, you scream all the way down the runway.
Yeah. And that's a good thing, I guess.
Right? Well, it's led to some great things, as you can see, by the Airborne Angler, getting up above the bays and other fisheries, and, well, ducks, geese.
Deer runs.
We've now talked about the potential for maybe some turkeys in the field.
Yeah, you never know.
Right?
So,
Maybe schools of coho on that clear Lake Michigan water, and not been...
There you go.
Wonder if we can see those.
Right? Yeah, that's what Adam says. Fishing buddies for you.
Well, I tell you, we've come up on the end of the show here, so we appreciate you taking an hour out of your night, hour plus actually, and talking with us and just showing us a little bit of what you do. And we're thankful for what you do. Believe me, don't want to lose anybody on the ice, and you know, if it, like you said, if it helps one person save a life, then that's awesome. So.
Well, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so with that being said, pull up his website again.
Oh, yep. So we'll start off with on Facebook. You go over to the Airborne Angler, give him a like and a share over there. Or if you want, you can go over to his website, theairborneangler.com. And if you want to go back over to Facebook and check out Camp Fishtails, go check that out as well.
Absolutely. So, as we always say here, if you're listening on the podcast, make sure, or if you're listening to the podcast on iTunes, give us a review. That helps the people who support us as well as people like Scott, or not Scott, I'm sorry, Marty. I don't know how I got Scott in the brain. I think it's the two that are fighting online right now. Two of your buddies. But, you know, go over to his social media pages as well. Give him a like, follow, share. Do the same for us. Share the show. And visit his supporters pages as well, and let them know that you heard about him here at the Up North Journal. And you know, it goes full circle. It's just everybody helping everybody, kind of like what you're doing, helping in the outdoors. So,
well, you know, I know we're signing off, but we see it when we're with Scott out on the water, right? They're helping each other. They're all talking and everything. Like he's talking with his group and just getting the message out. And it being on the safety side is even better. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I hope that this is a trend that continues with people helping each other out in the outdoors, because, you know, years past is just my spot, get out of here, you know, I'm not going to tell you anything. And so it's nice to see some new blood coming in and starting to turn things around. Absolutely.
So once again, Marty, thank you for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and you know, just keep flying out there and showing us those pics come ice fishing season.
Thanks, Mike and Dan.
All right. Hang on with us here, and we'll talk real quick after the show. So that's going to do it for us this week.
Next week, we're going to talk to a group from Escanaba, continue our parade to the UP Ice Fishing Show, Hunting and Ice Fishing Show in November.
All right. So there you have it. Next Wednesday night, 7:30. Y'all take care. We'll be here.
This episode was brought to you by PSC Archery,
Deer Camp Coffee,
Buck Baits,
JPO Game Calls,
The Island Armory,
Hackermax,
Sunrise Archery,
and C3 Better the Hunt Technology.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal.